Every snap is an interview.
After the Snap.
What a snap. And keep your mouth shut, 50!
I lead by example.
With Blake and Reed Ferguson, discussing life in, out, and after football.
To be able to leave walking away with a degree and a championship, it couldn't be any better.
Yeah!
Well, you can take this boy out the real south on him, but you can't take the real south out of my voice. And now here we go again, twist a little bit deeper because I got thick skin. You must be selling me.
So, fellas, welcome into the pod. And for Caleb, this is your first time. Sorry, producer Caleb, this is your first time joining the podcast. Welcome back, friend of the pod, Brett Carlson.
Howdy.
I have a question for you guys, because this is something that came up this evening, and I was like, this has to be talked about on the podcast. Every time that Brett comes on the pod, somehow we always end up talking about food. So I ordered my dinner. I DoorDashed Chipotle to Chipotle, as TikTok dads call it. DoorDashed it to my house, and it arrived. I ordered a bowl and a quesadilla. When I pulled out the food, I generally throw it in the microwave just because it's sat in somebody's car for the last 15 minutes. Throw it in the microwave. As I was pulling the quesadilla out, I noticed that it had not been touched by the panini press thing that they use. And so it's like cold. It's like literally not hot at all. And I was like, surely, there's no way that it is this cold. I open it up, and it is literally just cooked steak and shredded cheese in a tortilla. To which I then share it with Abby, my girlfriend, and she says, throw it in the air fryer. To which I then respond, I don't own an air fryer. So my question to you, long-winded question, is having an air fryer worth it, and why?
Dude, Reed is a big air fryer guy.
Huge.
I feel like I am not an air fryer guy, but I feel like it's just kind of a real fancy way to reheat things is all it seems like. But I also have never owned one. But I know when I was at Reed's house this year, at some point, we threw, I don't know if it was wings or fries to reheat them in there, and it did do a pretty stellar job.
Look, we've got a 2-year-old, and so whenever we're in a pinch and we've got to throw some nuggets together, the air fryer, that is the way to do it. It's quick, gets it done. It's not overly hot. I mean, it's edible, but it's not one of those things where you got to wait 20 minutes for them to cool down. You just cut them up. And
so it's interesting you say that, because you mentioned Reed is a big air fryer guy. Caleb, you're a big air fryer guy. I know our mutual friend Kylie is a big air fryer guy. Is having kids is that the key piece, that you have to have an air fryer, or you have to have kids in order to have an air fryer, or you have to have an air fryer in order to have kids?
I think it stems from getting married, honestly. You get married, and then you get one you put it on your registry, and then you get
automatically
it,
on the registry,
and then you become an become an air fryer guy.
Got it.
Kayla and I actually one time we did steaks in the air fryer. We had some fillets, and we put steaks and some garlic butter, and they were actually pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie. They were
so
really good.
Did you sear them before you put them in, on a cast iron or anything?
They sat in there for 15 minutes maybe, and with some garlic and some butter, and they were really good. They were really, really good.
So
you can cook a steak on a grill in 15 minutes.
So that's the thing, is we've got a Blackstone, and obviously you can cook one on a skillet and cast iron inside the house. But we had seen it on TikTok, I think. And Ken was like, hey, we should try these steaks in the air fryer. I'm like, well, try anything once. Dude, and they were really good. They were really, really good.
Okay. So Caleb,
but with all this being said, have you guys seen the stuff lately about air fryers exploding in the kitchen?
No, I haven't.
No.
Okay,
but
so
I'm interested to hear about it.
So I saw a post on Facebook or something the other day. Somebody said that they've seen a lot of fires recently from like electricity going out and people keeping their air fryer plugged in. And when the air fryer or when the electricity comes back on, the air fryer
Pops.
explodes and it like the entire
Really?
kitchen burns. Yeah. And they talked to the fire department. They said they've seen half a dozen fires.
So is it
in
a
the
certain
area.
brand, or is it just the way that the air fryers all work that is doing this? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Man. Well,
Yeah, so it's interesting because it's got me because I mean we just leave the air fryer on the countertop and we'd leave it plugged in, and so now it's got me like unplugging it and stuff.
yeah, public service announcement: unplug your air fryer when you're not using it.
That's right.
I unplug my toaster when I'm not using it, but I don't know why I do that. I think I was just taught to do that as a youngster. Maybe they just do they run up your electricity bill when you're not using them, like having the
That's
lights
probably a
on?
fire hazard. You just do everything in the name of a fire hazard.
Fire hazard.
That sounds like
we'll call it that.
some Mima wisdom, you know?
Yeah, I think it is, but
Yeah.
I don't know why I do that. It's just like in I think it's instinctual. Like we just unplugged it whenever we were done with it growing up, and that's what I do here. I don't know.
Did y'all ever see like when you were a kid, you had like a toaster oven cover? Like my grandparents, I think one of them had like a cover that would go over your toaster oven to cover it up.
So, but are you talking about the toaster oven with the door on the front that you put your fish sticks
like
in?
A toaster, like
okay,
pop out
you
the
put
top,
bread. Yep, got it.
and you have like a cover over top of it.
Really?
Never seen that before.
Yeah, I think they were a thing.
Huh. Okay. No, I haven't. But now that we're, on the topic of all gadgets and gizmos in the kitchen, I'm
What's
interested.
funny, a quick Google search, there is now a modern version of the toaster cover that looks like it would be sold at a fancy kitchen store.
Like a Williams Sonoma.
It's on, like literally, it looks like the Williams Sonoma. Like, so if your grandma drives a G-Wagon, she can now cover her toaster.
What do grandmas drive? What do rich grandmas drive?
Do they drive?
Like a
Tahoes.
Like
They're in Tahoes.
souped up
Pick up the
Cadillac.
Buick. Buick for sure.
Buick. Sure
Yeah.
doesn't look like a Buick. All right, let's get into a little Week 12 recap now that our food talk prerequisite is out of the way, now that Brett is on the pod this week. So we hosted the Houston Texans this past week. We defeated them 30-15. I am repping Miami Mike because Miami Mike was mic'd up for the game this past weekend. Caleb, I know you thoroughly enjoyed that as a former football vidiot.
That's right.
What were your thoughts
my biggest takeaway was him just constantly trolling everyone on the team in game.
So good.
So it's not like it's like I get trolling throughout the week, and then while those 4 quarters are going on, you're buttoned up your business. No, it was none of that. It was constant troll to everyone, and I thought that was fantastic.
Oh, it was perfect. And that is him. That is him in a nutshell. Every day at practice, around the building, he is a troll, and he doesn't care who knows it. That's just his personality.
The clip you sent us, or you sent me and I think Reed, of the mic'd up clip of him going clock, 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 clock. I was dying.
Yes.
I was like,
and then he gets real quiet. Nice.
I was dying. I was like, I want to be friends with it. I actually looked up his age after you sent me this. I was like, how close am I in age to this guy? Because I'm pretty sure we watched some of the same TV shows at some point.
Yeah.
Because we definitely have the same sense of humor.
Well, we are headed out to the West Coast this week. We are actually going to be in California for 10 days. We fly out there tomorrow. Today, we're recording this Thursday night, and as we speak, Reed Ferguson, which we should have noted at the very beginning of the podcast, we are recording this while Reed is getting ready to play on Thursday Night Football against the New England Patriots. But as we speak, we are getting ready to I'm actually going to be packing up my suitcase after I record this, because we're going to play San Francisco on Sunday, and then we will be playing on Sunday Night Football at SoFi Stadium next Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers. So because of that, we will be staying in California all week, which means a 10-day trip to the West Coast for the Dolphins. Last week, the Bills went to Detroit for the second time. That was Big Kev's third time in Detroit this season, which is hilarious to me. They played on Thanksgiving, beat the Detroit Lions 28-25. And this is the third time tonight is the third time that they are playing on Thursday Night Football this week, which I wish we had Chris on the pod this week as a fourth, because I'm pretty sure he'd be able to tell us. But I wonder when the last time a team played on Thursday night 3 times in a season was, because I think that you have to play on Thanksgiving as a, for that to be possible to play on Thursday night 3 times. And then also the only one that I can think of would be the opener as well, and then filling in a regular season Thursday night game. But I think it was smart the way that the league scheduled it to do 2 Thursdays back to back, so that you at least get a week in between, and it's not two separate Thursday night games scattered through the season for a short week. What are your thoughts, Caleb?
Yeah, look, I think it's a fantastic job by the league. There's a lot of times I think they know exactly what they're doing, especially when you see guys think about that time that Drew Brees was going for that record, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna slot that to be Monday Night Football."
Yes.
So the league, I think, does a really good job, and they have a lot of foresight and on when people are going to break records, player safety. That's a big thing now, and I think that doing, like you said, going a full week in between is a really big deal.
I'm glad that you brought that up, them having foresight and sort of the game that they play with TV ratings, because we've actually talked about that before on this pod with Brian Flores coming back to Miami earlier this year, Sunday Night Football. I think Baker Mayfield going back to Cleveland was a primetime game.
I think
The Deshaun Watson first game back, I believe, is against the Houston Texans in Houston. So some of that stuff I feel like is very, very well orchestrated behind the scenes by the league. And I feel like that they don't get enough credit a lot of times on when stuff like that is going to happen. They're pretty on it.
I think sometimes they try to build these storylines early in the season, though. It's like the matchup you've all been waiting for. It's like, they traded the quarterbacks and their offensive line's different. And it's like 47-4. It's like, well, okay, that was a little lackluster.
Yeah. And I think that we've seen that a little bit with the Denver primetime games this year. They were expected to be with Russell Wilson going to Denver. They were expected to be this, juggernaut team. They were on prime time in so many slots to start the season, and they just kind of fell a little flat. But
now they're getting flexed out of those spots too. It's important,
right.
The league does a really good job with that too. They're like, oh, okay,
they
put you in all
pivot
these
a little
primetime
bit,
games, but you stink, so we'll take you out.
But that's one of the games that got flexed out when we got flexed into the spot for Sunday Night Football. I guess next week against the Chargers, and we will also potentially have the opportunity to get flexed the following week going to Buffalo for a big time division game with a lot of implications that week before Christmas. So
I saw something the other day when I was watching I can't remember if it was, I think it was a Sunday, and the first time ever, speaking of like flexing games on and off, I was watching the first or second broadcast today. I think it was the second broadcast of the day, whatever the game was. and it was like 42-0. I can't remember who was playing. And the game was so bad that they came on. They're like, this game's not very competitive, so we are going to take you to a more competitive game. And they literally switched the broadcast for my region, which is Tennessee, over to the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game. And I rewound the broadcast because I'm like, did I just miss something?
Yeah.
Like, did the game end? And then when I
you're
watched
not paying attention for 2 seconds, and then it's just you're in the middle of a completely different game.
I was like, did they lose the broadcast?
I swear I'm not watching Red Zone right now.
You go to the bathroom one time. That's all it takes.
and then, but what was interesting is, so I thought it was just for me, which obviously it wasn't, but I watched the ESPN Sunday Night Countdown or whatever, and on that, their highlights ended roughly when that broadcast swapped. I'm like, did they cut that game for the whole country? Did they just this game's so bad, we got to get rid of it? Erase it from the history book.
So as I mentioned earlier, we are about to watch, I guess they just kicked off a couple minutes ago, the Bills Patriots AFC East Division Thursday night game, which actually leads us into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is there is an absolute juggernaut. That's the second time I've said that on this podcast, of an AFC East division battle brewing right now between the Ferguson brothers. And I wish that he was on here to start a little late season smack talk, as we have one game still looming 3 weeks from now. Both sitting at 8-3. The tie right now goes to us because we won the first matchup, but we still have to play again here in a couple weeks. I'm pumped. I'm obviously not overlooking the next 2 weeks out in California, but there are some serious contenders in our division, and I think that both of us really have a shot at playing in February as it stands right now. Brett, you are a longstanding Bills fan. Curious your thoughts on the way that the AFC East stands right now.
What's amazing to me about the AFC East is very interesting for the first time in a while, right? I mean, historically for a decade, you basically had to watch, you knew the AFC East's outcome in May.
Yeah.
And now it's very interesting, which as a fan, win or lose, is very exciting and fun. It's fun having 4 teams in the mix. They're all like a game apart, roughly. It's very exciting. I think Buffalo is kind of to blame for this being so close. I think on paper, at least, Buffalo was the best team, or is the best team, whatever you want to say. Injuries, his last year, they really kind of went the whole season clean, no injuries really.
Yeah.
And now this year, they're kind of getting plagued by them.
Yeah.
And then some adverse situations like the snowstorm, which I think clearly affected their play in Detroit for when they played the Cleveland game.
Cleveland game. Yep.
It felt off. I mean, it just felt like the whole game plan wasn't there. It felt weird. It's frustrating to watch. I've definitely sent some gifs of me pulling my hair out to people, including you.
I think I was going to on the receiving end of some of those furious text messages.
Yes, I love them to death. I can't send those to Reed. I feel bad complaining about the Bills to Reed.
He's like, dude, I just snapped the football. Don't
exactly.
Put me in the line of fire here.
1 of 53. I can't be mad, but I think it's interesting. But I think you guys, the Dolphins, have come out and just been fantastic. I mean, completely exceeded expectations. Coach McDaniel's coming in, and that quote this past week or two with him, Tua, talking about the confidence regained from having someone like Mike around. That is awesome. I mean, it's really awesome to watch, and as a human, it's really great to see for Tua. I mean, it's the more you're kind of closer to this league, the more you kind of root for people. You always hear that. I root for people, not for teams. So it's pretty cool to hear Tua say that he's been such a positive influence on his life and his belief in himself, which is, I think that's been the big winner here is the Dolphins. The Jets and Patriots are doing well, but I think the Dolphins they've exceeded my expectations by a long shot. No offense.
And I think that following the last two seasons, you knew that the Dolphins that we had a team, that there were really, really good pieces of the puzzle in Miami. There was just something missing. And I think that seeing how Coach McDaniel has believed in Tua from the very, very beginning. You have Tyreek coming out in the press and all over his podcast from the very beginning in the summer, talking about Tua and how excited that he was to play with Tua. That has to build Tua's confidence significantly. And so being somebody that's in the locker room with Tua and the rest of the crew from the jump, we have believed in Tua and known that this was possible. I watched this happen when I was at LSU. Caleb, you watched it with me.
I've seen that man torch us way too many times.
So many times. And so to know what he's capable of and to see that come to fruition has been so much fun. And so I think that adding a couple of those missing pieces to the puzzle has been a huge reason why we've had the success that we have had this season. Obviously, have to continue to play each game one game at a time and not overstep our goals that we have as a team. But we know exactly what we're capable of with the guys that we have in the room, and it's going to be exciting to watch, and it's going to be exciting, at least for me, to be a part of for the coming weeks and the coming months ahead of us. So big things are happening in the AFC East. Let's get a update on the Bills Patriots. Bills are 3rd and 20 on the plus 38-yard line. Need a couple of yards if they're not going to get a first down to get a field goal. Little check down to the running back. Looks like they're going to send out the field goal unit. We're going to get a live.
We're going to live call.
I say live call, but listeners are going to be listening to this on Friday morning, and they're going to know exactly what happened. Lots of angles on Thursday Night Football of the replay here. Tyler Bass is on for the 48-yard field goal. 48 yards? 30 plus 18. Yeah. Beautiful. Right down the middle. And the TNF, I love the TNF, like what it would have been good from based on the trajectory of the ball. It would have been good from 65. So.
Hey, Reed, Blake, the other day we talked about how Reed post football might have a career in smooth
jazz radio.
Yeah, I think you might have a play-by-play future.
I'll be the next what Brad Nessler, Mike Tirico.
Yeah. Chris Blair.
Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you believing in me.
Yeah.
What just need a special team specialist on every broadcast? You're like, can you tell us what happened? Snapped it?
Who was it? That it was it Jay Feely? Jay Feely used to be on, I think, NBC. Did they take him off?
I want to say maybe CBS.
CBS, okay.
But 6-1 way, half dozen.
But yeah, I think that that's like, I don't know. I think it's a good idea, but who knows? But I'm glad that actually happened, because that leads us into our week 12 clutch snap of the week, which might be a little.
It's rigged. It's rigged. I'm saying it's rigged.
It's conflicting for me to now be giving it out for the second time to my co-host of the pod, who is not on this week, so he is not able to give an acceptance speech. Congratulations to Reed for winning the Week 12 Clutch Snap of the Week. He is now a 2-time winner. They kicked a 45-yard field goal to seal the victory over Detroit last week on Thanksgiving. Super weird to be giving that out. It feels like it might be an inside job, but I picked it.
Yeah, who votes on these things? Does he vote on this?
Well, I'm going through all of the recaps from last week's games. He was the only NFL game-winning snap. So he has to get it, right? Like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it has to.
The way that I see it, as one half of the voting committee for this award and 100% of the voting committee, considering I'm the only one on the pod this week from the voting committee, you have to go all the NFL games, all those game-winning snaps. And if there are none, then you go college game-winning snaps. But with there being only one NFL game-winning snap, Reed is now a 2-time winner. So congrats to him.
That was a stressful end of that game.
Incredibly
Oh,
stressful. Obviously, being a Miami Dolphin, I'm pulling against the Bills in every capacity besides Reed, firing off a beautiful game-winning snap there. But it did seem like there was a lot of miscommunication on the way that end of game situation could have gone with killing time, and you're right, it did not
that
look
Diggs
smooth.
catch though was just like the Josh Allen to Diggs catch that set that up was a thing of beauty.
To set them up in field goal range. It absolutely stinks to be on the defending end of a chunk yardage play to put you into field goal range.
Yeah.
So
can't imagine.
It just like I'm feeling for the Lions that were standing on the sideline just watching it happen, because I kind of had this feeling in my gut when I saw that there were, I don't know, 20 something seconds left. What was it? Was it 20 seconds? I don't know how much time was left.
It wasn't much.
Yeah. Anyway, I just kind of had this gut feeling that there was just too much time for Josh Allen and the boys to move the ball down the field. But yeah, congratulations to Reed and the Buffalo Bills field goal unit for their clutch snap hold kick of the week. So a headline that I saw this week was the Army uniforms for the Army-Navy game coming out. And I always enjoy seeing the lengths to which Army and Navy go to outdo each other in the uniform game, because not only is it a cool game to watch on championship weekend. Is it championship weekend? It's next weekend, not this upcoming weekend. It's next weekend. It's like the only game on that weekend. Yeah. It's not only is it super fun to watch just from a competitive standpoint and as an American, but like those uniforms always look crispy. The first ones that I remember seeing that I was like, holy cow, those look awesome, were when they did the original fighter jet, like hand painted on the helmets for the Navy uniforms. But I'm gonna give a little. I read a little write up on the Army and Navy uniforms. So I'm gonna give a little background into the uniforms that they're gonna be wearing 2 weeks from now. So Army has decided to do the Iron Soldiers of the 1st Armored Division, and they're going to tell the story of quote unquote old Ironsides. And the 1st Armored Division, it says, is a combined arms division of the United States Army. The division is part of the 3 Armored Corps and operates out of Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. Come on, West Texas. They were the 1st Armored Division of the United States Army to see battle in World War II. And since then, the division has been involved in the Korean War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Persian Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, and several other operations. The division has also received numerous awards and recognition. Sick. Have you guys seen these uniforms?
Dude, I'm looking at them right now. They are so sick.
Fire.
You see the Navy
flames,
ones?
absolute flames.
Yes, and that's where I'm going next. So, so the Navy uniforms are actually the ones that I saw first because they unveiled them publicly first, and they showed them off to their team through like this video, and then the guy like in the uniform like walked out. So the Navy uniforms are a nod to NASA and the space side of the Navy. I guess is NASA part of the Navy, or is it just
I don't think
honoring
so.
the people who have gone from the Naval Academy into NASA?
So that
Maybe
was
that's
my
what it
takeaway.
is.
I think
Okay.
that's the
All right. I'm
people
gonna
from Navy that have gone to.
Got it. Okay. I should probably read this first. It says in a statement describing the design of the uniforms and the American space flight history that they honor, the Naval Academy notes the long history of graduates turning to space flight. Here we go. 54 United States Naval Academy graduates have gone on to become astronauts, the most of any institution. The first Naval Academy graduate to become an astronaut was Alan Shepard in 1945, who was the first American in space and was one of NASA's first 7 astronauts. One side of the helmet will feature the iconic image of astronaut Bruce McCandless appearing to float alone above Earth as he performed a spacewalk in 1984 while wearing the manned maneuvering unit propulsion system. Wow. The other side of the helmet, meanwhile, displays NASA's worm logo in red and white above an image of the moon. The uniform is finished off by a patch of the USS Enterprise, the U.S. Navy's first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, which helped track Friendship 7, the first American orbital spaceflight. So freaking cool.
Hey, as a gigantic fan of NASA, space exploration, and everything to do with this, these uniforms are quite mid, in my opinion,
You think
as
so?
young people would say. Dude, number one, you could totally make a meme saying, like, take the Ole Miss jersey, but just make it like, hey, Ole Miss, can we copy your homework? Yeah, just change it up a little bit. They look like an Ole Miss jersey, number one. And then number two, like, it literally has a photograph on the side of a helmet, which is just a terrible look. It doesn't, like, you should have a logo or a graphic. If it just has a NASA logo on both sides,
Yeah,
I'm in. But that it's just a picture of the spacewalk thing, and I'm kind of like, what? It's like a sticker slapped on the side of a helmet. I don't know.
I mean, everybody's
love
entitled to
NASA,
their opinions.
so I want to like it, but I don't think there's well thought out as a uniform as the Army one is.
Yeah. Caleb, what are your thoughts on the
I think there's some validity to what Brett's saying here. Traditionally, when it comes to the Army Navy game, I'm more of a Navy guy. But I think in the uniform battle, I think Army's got it by a lot.
so. I think so too. And when you texted me that earlier, Caleb, about who do you root for, just like naturally, who's your first inclination? For me, it's always Army. And I don't know why, because I have loved ones that have served in both. And so I don't have like a preference. I just have always pulled for Army. And to me, the Army uniforms do definitely look better. But I think the NASA helmet is really cool. I see what you're saying, Brett. I think if they had done the NASA logo on both sides instead of the astronaut, maybe. But what was the school, Caleb? Do you remember the school that did wasn't there a school that did a space uniform before?
Probably UCF.
UCF.
They're like right by the
yes, the launch
they
center.
Frequently post that picture when they launch from Port Canaveral, and it's like at their 50-yard line. It's fire. It looks so cool.
Brett, go look up UCF's space uniform, because it's pretty
like
cool.
Splattered. It's
really and they did the moon rock helmets. I think
Yeah.
they've done it a couple times because the first ones,
I think they
were
typically do like a space game a year.
Yeah, the first ones I think were the black uniform, the all black that like looked like the night sky, and it
It
said
has the
like
constellations on
said
it.
Space U on it.
Dude, they got one that's got a moon helmet.
Yeah, that's the one that's the one I was talking about earlier. That's the one with the constellation on the here it is. Constellations on the numbers.
Yes.
I think that's
Those
you talk
are
about
sick.
detail.
incredible.
That is freaking cool. The space U thing I think is a little weird. Anyway.
Yeah, that is weird.
Um,
Navy needs to do a Navy SEAL uniform. Just blacked out with the trident. Ooh,
wow.
that'd be sick.
Brent, you got to work for Under Armour. Isn't that who Navy's with? Under
I
Armour
think
now?
so. Yeah. I think so.
Probably.
So what is it? 2 weeks? I should have written down when the game is.
Yeah, it's not this week, but next week.
Saturday the 10th.
10th. Yeah. So
Sweet.
crazy story about
Tune
that
in.
one. Not crazy, but my 30th birthday is next year, and Cam was like, "Hey, what do you want to do for your 30th birthday?" It's kind of a big deal.
Ooh.
And I was like, "I've always wanted to go to the Army Navy game, and next year they're playing in Foxborough." And I was like, "Let's go to Army Navy."
I'm so jealous. That sounds incredible.
It's
Because
just like
that's something that I definitely have on my bucket list as well is to go to that game. I don't know though. I think I would like to see it in Philly because
Yeah.
I think that's an unmatched environment, especially if it snows.
it's in MetLife this year.
Okay, so are they moving it around? I thought it was
Yeah, I
always in
guess
Philly.
I thought it was always in Philly as well. And then when I started like looking into it for next year, I saw this. I'm almost positive it's in MetLife this year,
Okay.
and then next year it's in Foxborough.
Gotcha. Well, that'll be one to watch for sure. But let's talk this weekend. Conference Championship Weekend is coming up. And though LSU is not really playing for a whole lot playoff-wise, a conference championship in Brian Kelly's first season would be massive. Absolutely massive. To even be playing in the conference championship with a stacked SEC West is incredible. So the 14 ranked LSU Tigers will be taking on the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia is currently favored by over 2 touchdowns. We're sitting at 17.5 spread right now for Georgia. It's basically a home game with them playing in Atlanta, but the last 2 times that the Bulldogs have taken on the Tigers in Atlanta, we've gotten down and dirty, baby.
Also, here's another one for you. The last 3-loss SEC champion, and Nick Saban coached LSU Tigers in 2001.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah. So
Are you Todd Pollitz with these stats?
it might as well be.
Shout out to Cody Worsham. Man. So the number 2 Michigan Wolverines will be taking on the Purdue Boilermakers, also 17-point favorite. That one to me is not as surprising considering that Purdue is unranked walking into the Big Ten championship, which to me is always hilarious because I have teammates from, I think, all 5 of the Power 5 conferences, and you hear chatter, right? Everyone wants to chirp the SEC and, you know, SEC this, SEC that, overrated. The Big Ten had more bowl wins, whatever. Brett, you're a Big Ten guy.
Big Ten guy.
You spent some time in Happy Valley.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the Big Ten being such a one-sided conference? And it seems like that every team that comes in from the East is like a 7-5 team playing against a playoff contender from the West.
I mean, the Big Ten, younger me, was like, farm boys on the line. Like that was Big Ten football, it was just like big old lineman
Beef,
football. And
baby. Meat and potatoes.
yeah, meat and potatoes, milk with dinner kind of, it's people where I'm from. And now, I mean, they added in Northwestern, Rutgers, and like that western side of the Big Ten is like, you got Northwestern, Purdue, Nebraska, and Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Nebraska and Iowa have not been good in a minute. And then Northwestern's comical, as are the Rutgers, or as are Rutgers. It just only leaves a couple teams that can really compete. Michigan State's a joke too anymore. So it's like Michigan and Ohio State, and Penn State goes in and annoys people like one game a year or something, and that's about it. It's just, I mean, the Northeast and the Midwest, like it's NFL country, like that's the thing. It's like in the Southeast where the SEC is from, there is 3 NFL teams across like the entire SEC region, like Nashville, Atlanta, and Houston, I guess New Orleans, technically.
New Orleans. Yeah, I throw New Orleans in there.
So like versus in the Northeast where it's like in my little town where I'm at right now, I can drive 4 hours and be at 4 or 5 different NFL stadiums in like a 4 or 5 hour radius of my little town. So it's like we're just all NFL obsessed, and I think like just the money isn't behind it the same way, and the fandom isn't the same. It's like I love it, and there's nothing better than a game in Happy Valley. I don't care. I've never been to Death Valley for a game. Hopefully we get to go someday. But I will say I've been to a lot of football games all over this country. Nothing is like a game at Happy Valley, especially during a whiteout.
That's another one like the Army Navy game that I would love to go to someday. There and is it Nebraska that has had the longest sellout record for whatever?
Yeah, but that doesn't really count because I saw an article how one of the boosters bought like 2,000 tickets just so they can keep the streak alive.
Geez. Forget it.
Yeah. Boo.
Send me to Happy Valley. I want to go for a whiteout night game.
Yeah.
I think getting back to the point though, I think it is lame. It's embarrassing. I mean, I think the whole East versus West thing is so silly in all the conferences because it's like, why is it not the 2 best teams? I get it, I guess, but it's like college football is very frustrating because it's like, oh, it's got to be East versus West, which like I'm on board with. But then you get the college playoff. It's like, well, no, every conference doesn't get a team. It's arbitrarily decided by this mysterious cabal up in some, penthouse building voting on who's the best team. It's like, have it one way or the other. Like, make it all murky weirdness or make it all following the rules logical. Like, do what?
I'm glad you mentioned that, and I don't want to hop in, but with the playoff expanding to 12 teams, you're about to see a lot more conferences break the divisions, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up, if they had 2 divisions like it is now, so like LSU, for example, they're 9-3, would be out of the playoff contention. If there was a 12-team playoff, LSU would be playing for their playoff lives.
Yep.
But if they won the playoff, or if they won the SEC championship and is a 12-team playoff, they would take a bid from Utah. And so I think that's why conferences are looking to get rid of divisions and just go to one big, take your best 2 teams, have them play in the conference title game, because then you're guaranteed a spot in the top 4 to get that first round bye.
Yeah. And I think too that that with UCLA, USC joining a Big Ten, like we already saw with Texas A&M and Missouri, just like getting thrown into the SEC. You see Missouri, who's on the western side of the conference, being thrown into the SEC East because it doesn't really make sense to move all the other teams around. It's going to make even less sense when USC and UCLA join the Big Ten and all of the Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC. It just makes so much more sense to just get rid of the divisions, and ultimately it will help out for playoff implications as you get later in the season, and you just put your top 2 teams in the championship game and let them battle it out for that spot. So, Brett, what do you got?
I will end on this note with this topic. I'm just grateful I don't have to watch Nick Saban. That's all that matters in my life. I anyone but Bama, baby.
Hey, anybody but Bama. Caleb and I are 100% on that train for sure. Let's finish up tonight's pod with a little bit of, I mentioned it earlier, unintelligent World Cup expertise, inexpertise.
I would call it expertise. I'm
Okay.
really going to dive into the fact that I'm
Inadequate
not really an expert,
expertise.
but I'm going to claim to be an expert.
Yeah. So the U.S. is on to the knockout stage, which is incredible, unbelievable, because they are sitting undefeated. Greg Berhalter said it after the game. They are an undefeated team, which if you tie 2 and you win 1, I guess you technically are undefeated. Anyway, USA is undefeated going into the knockout stage against the Netherlands. Do they have a real shot to make a splash in the tournament? No idea. But the patriot in all of us is saying, absolutely they do.
They absolutely have a shot.
Because
They're
the
winning
United
it all.
States of America is the best. Caleb, Brett, did y'all watch the game on, what was that, Tuesday? Did y'all watch the game on Tuesday?
I'm
Yeah, so
such
it's
an
funny 'cause
American that I refuse to watch it.
Because of where the World Cup is located, or because it's soccer?
No, because football is played with your hands, okay?
Football.
And you kick the ball sometimes, but you throw the ball most of the times, and this is the best country on the planet Earth.
I have no disagreements. I have to agree. Like, you're right. He's right. The man's right.
So we've got 16 teams in the knockout stage. So far, we've got Netherlands v USA on Saturday. We also have Argentina v Australia, who, if the USA moves on, they will play the winner of Argentina and Australia. Caleb, I know you mentioned earlier your thoughts on that matchup if the USA were to move on. Share with me your thoughts on potentially playing Argentina.
Yeah, so I think and I do not claim to be a soccer fan at all.
We already said that. We already said we
watch
have
the World
none
Cup
of this is
every 4
intelligent.
years. I think I've watched maybe 2 hours of soccer like in the last 8 years, and they've all been in the last 2 weeks. So with that being said, when Argentina loses, because I think they've been playing pretty bad ball, and then we have to play an Aussie team.
The Socceroos, baby.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, I think we could take down these cats.
Come on.
And then we're moving on. I'm not really entirely sure who we play after that.
It would be the winner of, so Japan and Croatia play on Monday, and the next game that's also on Monday is yet to be decided. That will be decided tomorrow with the last round of the group stages being finalized.
And kind of a wild tournament, like some wild upsets and some interesting. There's some people in the mix that I didn't expect.
Well, you're also seeing, and I feel like it happens like this every year, every 4 years, where there's just a team or two that don't make it out of the group stage that definitely would make it out of probably all 8 other groups, or all 7 other groups, I should say. But because they're in a stacked group like Belgium was, with Croatia being in their group as well, they don't make it. And so you see Germany and you see Belgium, they're not even playing in the knockout stage, and they're 2 of the best teams in the world with serious, what we thought were serious shot at playing in the World Cup final. So
2 top 10 teams that aren't even moving on to the round of 16.
Yeah, unbelievable. We have England and Senegal on Sunday, and we also have France v Poland, which to me, that will be one of the biggest matchups that we'll see for this whole knockout stage, because France is obviously the reigning World Cup champions, but Robert Lewandowski and the Polish boys, I don't know what you want to call them, the Poles are gonna be bringing it. I love watching him play for Bayern, and I think that they may have a shot at bringing down the reigning World Cup champs.
Can we get an episode of After the Snap where you guys use those British soccer ribbon mics that they go inside your mouth?
The what? Is it
You've never
change your
seen
voice?
this? No, in UK, the soccer like play caller, the broadcasters, they use a mic called a ribbon mic, and it goes like literally into your mouth, pretty much.
Caleb,
that's where they get that very distinct sound.
No, first time hearing this, but I'm totally into it.
It's called a ribbon mic, and like on Ted Lasso, when they cut to the guy, he's holding the mic and they hold it up to their mouth. It's a mic that's very good at isolating other sounds, but it creates that very odd. So one of these, we have to have a full soccer ribbon mic.
Yeah. All right, I'm in.
I feel bad for our listeners.
Yes.
On I guess that would be Tuesday. Sorry, I'm literally just looking at the dates and they're out of order too, so it's becoming very difficult for me to keep track. Morocco v Spain. Morocco crushed it in their group stage. They came out with 7 points, which I think might have been the highest of any team. They won 2 and tied 1. They play on Tuesday, as well as the other 2 teams that make it out of tomorrow's matchups between Cameroon and Brazil, and Serbia and Switzerland, as well as Portugal, South Korea, and Ghana v Uruguay. So going to be some fun turns of events here soon with the World Cup. Hopefully that inadequate expertise, whatever we want to call that, was good enough for you all to get your fix of World Cup information. Don't tell Reed that we do not claim to be soccer experts, because he would be very offended to put his name on a podcast that
boy loves his soccer.
Oh man, he loves his soccer, and I do too, but he like nerds out on soccer and all sports. Like baseball, he's all into the same, like the metrics and the war, whatever. I can't keep up that intently, and so big time respect to him, but he would be very upset with me if he knew that hopefully he listens to this, if he knew that we were calling ourselves non-experts. So big thanks to Brett and Caleb for joining the pod this week. Thank you, boys, for filling in for Reed. Caleb, we would love to have you on moving forward from time to time. You were great, Brett, as always. You have been a great co-host. Is that a mandolin I see behind you?
Yeah. Mandolin. We got some guitars.
Are you gonna play the
look
intro?
At this. I don't know if we're doing video on this one.
We are.
This is a redneck wind chime.
Amazing.
Love it.
I'm staying in my buddy's man cave. It's all decorated hunting gear.
I thought that was just your podcast background, because if
wish.
it was, I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, I know. It's a perfect podcast background.
Yeah. Well, that is a wrap on this week's episode of After the Snap. Thank you all for joining us. As always, you can follow us on social media at After the Snap Pod, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll see you right back here next week with another episode, hopefully with Reed joining us. Update 10-7 Bills, 11.5 left in the second quarter. This has been After the Snap, tales from two brothers who live life upside down.